Typical, eh? Hit live and then immediately need to cough. So anyone who is joining us live for this session, I'm Chloe Thomas. I'm the host of the Keep Optimising podcast, and I'm going to be chairing this panel all about offline marketing. My experts will be joining us in a bit, and we'll get started properly in a bit. But if anyone's out there watching, just make me feel at ease and let me know you're actually there and we've actually streamed correctly to the right places. So we should be on with you on LinkedIn right now. We should be with you on YouTube right now. I know it's still a couple of minutes till the hour, so we'll let you get your fingers working and come and join us. And if you're coming in, I hope you've been listening to this month, quite frankly, because we have covered some big old topics on the podcast this month, and we have had some amazing guests join us and take us through the various aspects that we've covered of offline marketing. But I still feel like we've only covered a teeny tiny bit of it. And I know our experts and myself have got quite a wide range of knowledge on offline marketing. So if there's anything else you want us to bring into the mix, then the challenge is there. See if you can challenge us to an offline marketing piece that you don't think we might know about, because I bet you we probably do between us. A seriously good panel coming up. Right, well, I can see a few people are now here. We've reached the o'clock, so it's time I got things actually moving. So, welcome everyone to this month's Keep Optimising Expert Panel Q&A webinar. And when I find a shorter string of words to get that across to you, and I will shorten the name of this, but for now we are the Keep Optimising Marketing Podcast Expert Panel Q&A webinar happening monthly. And this one is all about offline marketing. It's about kind of the big picture of offline marketing, because this month we've gone deep into personalized DM, we've gone into catalogs, we've gone into face-to-face selling, so gift events, gift fairs, we've done pop-ups, we've also talked about magazine advertising today, in fact, and off-the-page advertising. However, there's a lot more to offline marketing. There's a lot more bigger picture stuff that we can talk about today. So do get your questions coming in. You can add those in the chat area. You will see somewhere around this video, whether you are on YouTube or whether you are on LinkedIn watching this live, you can add those chats. They will come through to me, and I will do my best to get the expert panel to answer them for you. And I strongly advise you to ask those questions early. If you leave it till the end, we may well not have time to get to your question. Because I know it's like, you go, oh, I'm not sure I want to ask it, not sure I want to ask it. Oh, someone else has asked something. Now I'll ask my question. And all of a sudden we get lots of questions at the end and none at the beginning. So if you've got a top question, ask it now, so as I can do my absolute best to get it out to the panelists for you. Once we will be kicking off with some questions which have already been sent in by one of the listeners. So yes, we have questions already on my list ready to go from you guys. So Nicole, thank you for sending those in. We will be getting to your questions shortly. But anyone else, please do add your questions in as we go. Anyone, of course, who's watching who's like, well, I wanted to know about offline marketing, but I completely missed the podcast. That's okay. You can find the podcast, you'll be able to find the replay of this and everything else at keepoptimising.com. Okay, so it's totally fine if you haven't seen those yet. You're still going to learn a lot from this, and it's going to make it mean you can go away and learn loads more straight afterwards by diving into those podcast episodes. Okay, let's check. Have I told you everything I need to tell you before we move on? Yes, I think I have. So who have we got coming to join us to explain all about the marvelous world of offline marketing? Well, we've got the brilliant Charlotte Pierce from InkPact, a super clever business to send personalized postcards en masse and triggered to your customers and prospects. Really, really clever business model. We've also got David Lockwood joining us from the Tapestry Agency, who came on to talk about catalog marketing, but has a wealth of experience across the full marketing mix, which I'm sure we'll tap into during this session. And we've got Sue Monate from Gift Biz Unwrapped podcast. Yes, she's one of the fellow female e-commerce podcasters, so it's always great to have her coming and joining us, also bringing the perspective from the other side of the big old pond. And Sue's podcast you can check out at Gift Biz. you can check out Sue's podcast and everything else Gift Biz over at giftbizunwrapped.com. And I should have told you about David. You can also get lots of practical ideas to help support your marketing at the tapestryagency.com/category/insights. I will be sharing those links when they start introducing themselves in a moment, so you'll be able to click and save those pages for later. We were hoping Paul Hendrick was going to be able to join us from DGH Advertising. Unfortunately, he can't. Something came up last minute. So I will do my best, and other panelists will do our best to cover any of the magazine advertising questions and newspaper advertising questions you've got. And of course, my name's Chloe Thomas. I'm the host of the Keep Optimising and eCommerce MasterPlan podcast, and you can find all of that at keepoptimising.com, which means it's time for it not to just be about me, but it's time to bring in our audience. And Paul Wilson is just messaged to say hello from LinkedIn. Hello, Paul. Thank you for joining us. Do send in some questions if you've got any for our panelists now or as we go through. So let's bring them up. Hello, David. Hello, Sue. Hello, Charlotte. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Good,
Great,
thanks.
Excellent. Well, as I said, we're going to let you introduce yourselves one by one. So, David, as you're at the top of the screen, do you want to explain a little bit more about what you guys do at the Tapestry Agency for the audience, please?
Yeah, so I'm one of the founders of the Tapestry Agency, and we do customer-centric insight and strategy, but really from a data-centric standpoint. So it's data at the heart of everything to help people understand how to make better, more efficient, more sensible marketing decisions. And we've been doing that for about 3.5, 4 years now. But before that, all my experience was client side. So I've got 20 years sitting client side experience, most recently as marketing director of Bowden, the fashion company, but through a number of sectors, wine, furniture, quite a big remit over the number of years. So that's me.
Yeah. When I said we have a wealth of experience in today's guest, I really did mean it. Sue, you're next.
Wonderful. Okay, so I actually have a couple of businesses. Gift Biz Unwrapped is my more service-based business focusing on handmade product creators and turning their products into a business. But I also have my own product business, as you can kind of probably see from the background here. We sell custom ribbon printing machines. So I am actively in the product selling space as well as helping people create their own businesses. And a lot of that comes out of my corporate background when I was consulting with retailers, a lot of direct marketing, etc. I was involved in some big brands that I think across the pond, as you say, because I'm sitting here in Chicago. And Chloe, I saw you have your little hand muffs on. I so need those right now in my office. It is freezing in here. But I worked on the McDonald's salad rollout program when, believe it or not, way back in the day, they didn't offer salads. So a brand that you would know. I've also been intimately involved in Pizza Hut, lots of food things that you would know, but then also retailers that we have over here in the States as well. So
I remember the confusion and excitement of going to Europe and discovering McDonald's did salads. That was like, whoa, this is weird. And yeah, I have to say, for those of you who don't know, here at eCommerce MasterPlan, we're on a bit of a path to net zero trip currently. So we're all about reducing our carbon, which means the office is never hugely warm because we're trying to save the planet by making Chloe cold, basically, hence the gloves. And I'll put a plug, actually. These are recycled cashmere gloves by the marvelous women who run the company Turtle Dove. So anyone in the UK who's going, I want some of those, head to Turtle Doves. And after that complete distraction, courtesy of Chloe, Charlotte, how about you? Could you introduce yourself to our audience?
Have to get some of those gloves. My hands are always cold. Beautiful. Yes, hi everyone. I'm Charlotte. I'm basically, it's my mission in life to help businesses be more human. I am absolutely obsessed and love human psychology, human connection, people, and I'm the CEO and founder of a business called Impact. We help brands like Bowden, David. We also work with brands like Tiffany, John Lewis, Brewdog, Sweaty Betty, and we help them create really memorable, beautiful moments across their customer journey. And we do that by sending genuine handwritten notes and gifts at scale. So magic happens because we have a scribe tribe of over 1,000 people in the UK and the US. People that are single parents, that are people recovering from illnesses, people that are students, artists, all kinds of people who physically handwrite letters and notes from their own home on branded stationery and sent out at scale. So I think we're the only company in the world that can send hundreds of thousands of handwritten notes, all triggered by the CRM system. So it's kind of been my pleasure and honor to, one, build that Scribe Tribe, but two, work with some of the biggest brands in the world, helping them create this memorable moment for their customers, driving, lots and lots of revenue and engagement for them, but also helping these people to move their lives forward. So yeah, it's my mission to really help brands realize that even though you're big, or if you're big or small or whatever size you are, you can still have this memorable, meaningful human connection. And that's really what makes the world go round. So I have a background in kind of social enterprise, and I'm also a keynote speaker and do some inspirational talks for people on how to live a life they love as well as building a business they love. But I started Inkpat pretty much straight out of university, having ran some social enterprises whilst I was at university. So lived and breathed business, don't know anything else really, but yeah, had the pleasure of working with lots of brands. I'm really excited to get chatting to these wonderful people on the panel today.
Excellent, thank you, Charlotte. And I think that's the quest we should all be on, isn't it? To enjoy what we're doing as well as making the money and doing the business. So I'm loving that angle. So offline marketing. I've been puzzling where we should start this discussion, and I think one of the things which I've kind of made implicit about this month is that I think that as part of the reaction to the increased competition levels, the death of cookies, consumers' desire for more connection with the brands they're buying from, that offline marketing is something that even the most digitally desirous business should be considering in 2022, should be taking a fresh look at it. Would you guys agree that 2022 is the year to start testing, to start actioning offline marketing if you haven't done it already? And David, I can see you're almost on the edge of your seat there wanting to jump in, so I'll come to you first.
I think my answer would be yes if you haven't done it already. So we've worked with a number of pure play companies, pure play digitals, taking them into the offline space and helping them understand that omnichannel or at least multi-channel work, multi-channels, and getting the channels to work with each other is the way to really drive your marketing spend forward and to make your marketing spend really as efficient as possible. If you haven't done it already, then actually right now is a pretty good time to do it. Apart from the fact that there are some challenges with some rising costs and availability of paper, we'll skirt over that for a minute. But apart from that, actually, response rates are at levels never seen before across a wide variety of customer groups. When I first talk to people, they say, surely catalogs and digital and offline marketing, it's for the over 60s, over 70s. Actually, that's untrue. And there's a lot of research that says it works extraordinarily well in perhaps age groups that you really wouldn't expect. 20 to 25s are some of the strongest responsive groups in terms of incremental, because they don't get much other post through their letterbox. So you see a really big lift across all the groups if you're doing the right thing at the right time. So if you're not doing it already, now's the time that all kinds of offline marketing can really help give you a bit of advantage over perhaps people who are sticking in the pure play environment.
And Sue, we obviously talked about not just the paper-based side of offline marketing when we caught up. Is it something that you're seeing brands want to do at the moment, is take that offline step and give it a go?
Absolutely. And it's really interesting too, because some retail businesses that, of course, along the way added in online marketing and then closed a lot of their brick and mortar shops, be it because of the whole COVID thing, or even before that, just the costs because of the interest in, e-commerce, the new big thing, that you can do with the overlay of social and all that. We're starting to see over here too, that people are adding back in brick and mortar shops in maybe a new and updated version that they had previously closed. So they went from full brick and mortar, now they were online, and now they're coming back again in a re-imaged version of face-to-face, which is just showing the value and the importance of having that as well. And like David was talking about, they all play in with each other too, So yeah, we're definitely seeing that here.
And are you seeing much? Sorry, David, I'll let you go.
No, and we're seeing, a number of the people we work with, particularly thinking about how they can think about physical retail in a different way than they have perhaps in the past, trying to make it a more experience-led event, so that it's not just about shopping. It's about really engaging with the brand and really understanding the brand. And sometimes that works better in a physical environment. Sometimes it really helps pull some of the digital and other arms of the business together. So certainly we're seeing that in a number of ways. But I think people are trying to perhaps reinvent a little bit of what they used to assume physical retail was, and make it a slightly different experience than it perhaps would have been 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah. And Charlotte, you're obviously keenly into giving customers good experiences and bringing more humanity to it all. So would you say 2022 is the time to be definitely 100% allocating part of that marketing budget away from digital and into the physical world?
Yeah, I think kind of to jump on what David said, I think it actually makes the digital stuff better and more engaging and more valuable when you do the offline stuff too. But I would say brands that are have done lots of DM and physical before, to kind of question, well, that's great, but actually what can you do now? So as Sue mentioned, the world has changed. I think we've all, with the last couple of years in particular, things just have changed, customers have changed. And now I think we can be a lot more personal, a lot more emotional, but we love this physical, tactile thing in our hands. And like David said, we find no difference in results from our brands that have younger customers and really, really, really old customers. And actually, we all want to feel special, and we all want to feel valued, and we all want to connect with the brand. And one of the best ways of doing that is sending something meaningful through the post. So rather than, I think I was talking to a brand this week about, rather than big old catalogs that had everything in it, like really tailored, personalized stuff for that person, and go, oh, actually, this is what I want. Now I'm potentially going to go shop online because I've been inspired by the catalog. So I think it's, offline has changed its aims. It's really to more inspire and engage rather than to be that direct call to action. Because ultimately, I get catalogs. I love reading physical catalogs and getting physical mail, but then I will go and shop online, or I will go into a store, right? So it's connecting all of these pieces up and really thinking about like customer journey and going, what is the piece of direct mail, and not just doing it how you did it before, because the world has changed and moved on, and going, how can I take digital principles of measuring, how can I take digital principles of personalization and do it in a physical way? And that's not necessarily easy yet, but I think it's becoming easier to do. And I think the brands that really nail that are going to be the brands that really win, because we need to see and touch and feel and experience things in store. But as the pandemic had shown us, actually sometimes, online is the way the world is going. So how do we complement that with really great experiences? So yeah, I think it is the future, but people need to be doing it in the right way and in the way that is now, rather than the way it used to be done.
Yeah, I think you've touched on kind of two common screw ups I see. One of which is, we do that online, we will copy and paste it and do it in store or via paper or via SMS. Even the same problems happen with. We're just going to do a copy and paste. And the other one is thinking, right, we're allowed out the house now. Let's do things the same as we did them 2 years ago. But of course, consumer interests have changed. I'm going to turn that into a question in a second. Before I do, those of you watching us live, if you want to add a question in for the audience, you are the audience, a question in for our panelists, please add it on YouTube or LinkedIn in the comments area. That will feed through to me, and I will ask it of the panelists, not the audience. So please do send those in. Ask them now. Don't wait till the end, because then you've got the greatest chance of getting your question answered. So to frame all those amazing points you've just put together, Charlotte, into a question, I suppose one of the ones which I find most interesting in that, being a bit of a data geek, is making the two channels work together, which is not something we spent a lot of time talking about across our podcast episodes. David, obviously at the Tapestry Agency, you work across all the channels for many of your clients. It's fundamentally hard to track results that happen on different channels in the digital space, let alone track results when it happens offline. So can you give us a bit of insight into what the best practices are at the moment, without taking up the rest of this panel?
That could take forever. But you do need to understand what part of your marketing spend is returning and at what speed it returns, because otherwise you'll just be throwing cash away, you'll be wasting money in the wrong areas. We do an awful lot of incrementality testing. So we do an awful lot of either surge marketing, so taking a small area of the country and doubling the spend in that part of the country for a short time period and seeing what the uplift is in that particular media against others, or finding things you can turn off. So if you send, and there are no doubt a lot of people who probably send too much paper, but if you're sending truckloads of catalogs to your best customers, actually, are they all incremental? And if you removed 20% of them for the people who are showing particular behaviors like real email engagement or web journeys that the catalog is part of but not an entirely integral part of, then can you make more contribution and actually respend that on perhaps more efficient media in other places? There's pretty much no media channels, and someone will probably challenge me on this, because I can already think of one or two, but there are very few media channels that you can't incrementally test to understand what the real uplift is, as long as you understand that you're measuring it over a relatively defined time window, and you're understanding that some of your marketing activities aren't designed to lead to a positive customer outcome in terms of an order that week, that day, that hour. They might be designed to raise awareness, change consideration, and change how a customer engages with your brand to lead to a positive financial outcome 2 weeks, 4 months later, depending on what you're selling. People tend not to make a decision around a £1,000 mattress just by seeing an ad and clicking on it and going through to it. However, you might make that decision at a point in time on a £20 accessory. So it's horses for courses, and it's understanding what your customer journey looks like and where you can impact that with different media in different ways.
So I'm taking from that it's still as complicated as it's always been, and there's not an app for it.
There are quite a few things where you can look at integrated clickstream analytics, but tying the integrated clickstream analytics into offline understanding and when offline media hits and how you look at that on an econometric basis. And yes, it's still relatively complex, but actually there are simple things you can do to understand it, like just turning a bit of it off for a small segment of your audience to understand.
But to be able to do that, turning a bit off and turning a bit on, means you need that full comprehensive view of everything you're up to in your marketing, which I guess brings us on to one of the other points which Charlotte raised in her previous answer, which was we can't treat offline as a bubble. It has to be integrated with the other activity we do. We've got to have that kind of full customer piece. Sue, I'm going to come to you next, because I think we're talking a lot about the direct mail side of things, but for me, this is equally as important if you're running an event, because it creates as much opportunity digitally as it does physically.
Yes. And I love this conversation because I come out of direct mail too, like a ton of direct mail. So that really excites me also. But I think another way to look at this is a customer has different needs at different points in time. So if they see you face to face in a retail shop or in an event, they might not be in purchasing mode right now, but you've placed visibility and understanding of a product with them, and you may not have the event still open at the time if it's a time-based event, or they may not live in the same place where your store is when they walked in, So it's a way of complementing and having your products available at the time that they have the need to purchase. So I see e-commerce and face-to-face, whether it's craft shows, retail shops, other types of things that we might talk about later, all different options to serve your client so that you make it easy enough for them to get the order when they're ready to buy. So thinking that working compatibly. And just like you were saying, if you don't have the whole platform, if you don't have all these things available and ready for them, you can't flip levers up and down because you'd have to create it first. By having it at least all there ready and available, you can flip the switch in terms of reacting to how you need to, or offering to a potential customer a way of purchasing because it's already there and it's already established for them.
Yeah, we've done quite a lot of testing, and I'm sure you both have as well. Doing quite a lot of proof that 1 + 1 = more than 2. So channel 1 plus channel 2 together equal 2.1, 2.2, ideally 2.5. But really understanding how those channels work together and actually drive a much better resulting combination than either of them could separately.
Yeah, I think, David, we could probably have a proper geek out conversation around data and tracking and metrics. I'm very excited here. But something we did an event, talking of offline, we did an event last week with our kind of community of CRM and loyalty and marketing managers from all different kinds of brands. And it was on a concept that I'm kind of bringing to them called slow marketing, how to go slow to grow, and all these things that we've mentioned in terms of offline, but also even some online, but really thought out. There aren't things you can turn on and off necessarily as quickly as you can some of the digital stuff, but it's what really creates that long, meaningful engagement with the customers and actually taking the time and slowing down. I think we've all kind of come to this world of like, oh, quick stuff. So we do a lot of tests with our clients, and we normally do a test over 3 months, 6 months. But if we track, really simply just track in their CRM system the customer lifetime value of that customer over a year and 2 years, and just compare the people that got the thoughtful marketing versus the ones that got emails, you can just see the spend, you can see the change in behavior, and you can do that in the short term. So we do a lot with kind of offer codes and QR codes. We were talking about QR codes like 5-6 years ago, and it just was an absolute non-starter, right? How do we take our handwritten note into a video? We were even looking at like NFC tags and all these kind of funky stuff. And then thanks to COVID, there aren't many things we can say for that, but we all now know how to use a QR code, and all our phones are compatible. So there are, clever ways in which, because we're all about tracking and measuring, and I think it is important and it will always be important. But actually, if we kind of think about, I talk about dating a lot when I talk about marketing, because it is kind of the same. Like, if you think you're winning a customer over, they need multiple touch points. They need, like David said, if you're buying £1,000 mattress, you're not going to just see one ad and click it. You want to have more information, have a great relationship, and then you're willing to spend your £1,000 on the mattress. It's a great product. You probably watch videos, etc. What can we do to be like wooing customers along that journey and getting them to love the brand? And that is going to be a mixture of all channels. But actually, if marketers kind of slow down a little bit and go, what do I remember? I always talk about Sweaty Betty as a really good example. They do some really unscalable but amazing stuff to scale, which is like they create little yoga groups and little running clubs in local areas, which is it's just amazing, and the ambassadors love them, and then it trickles down. They've got one of the best loyalty programs I think I've seen in retail for a long time. So it's those unscalable, really thoughtful events and moments that are created that are helping brands scale. I mean, Sweaty Betty's now massive and continues to grow. So I think it's this doing small things to get big and doing slow things to grow is a really interesting thing that companies can think about, rather than just quickly turning things on and off.
I like slow to grow. I might have to borrow it if that's okay.
Feel free. Borrow away, David. Borrow away.
Well, and I think experiences like what you're talking about, Charlotte, are also things that people will talk about and move forward. So referral marketing and word of mouth, because they've had a good experience. So I also like that slow to grow, because that's something that you can't necessarily do on a large scale and have the same impact as you can on a small, more one-on-one scale.
Yeah, it's a real. I guess one of the things I love about the idea of the slow to grow marketing is that when I'm talking to retailers at the moment, kind of for the last 6 or 9 months, they all seem absolutely knackered. They've been on this roller coaster. Those of us who are on the supplier side, I mean, obviously, Sue, you're partly on the client side, retailer side of things as well, but I'm just like, it's like it's been crazy Christmas for the last 2 years solid. Now we're almost in March 2022, and they're a bit exhausted. So I imagine they're all going, what? I'm allowed to do slow marketing? I'm allowed to slow things down? That sounds like heaven. And watch those reactions, because it does feel like it's just been change after change after change after change. But another interesting point was brought up there, which apologies, I can't remember who mentioned this first, but often with our marketing, we end up kind of like putting it into the barrel of, well, Google ads is for new customer acquisition and Facebook ads is for new customer acquisition and email is for retention, which I can see David already grimacing at my oversimplification of things there. Where does offline marketing fit? Is it a new customer acquisition tool? Is it a retention tool? Can it be a bit of both? Is it have to be both if we're not doing it? Charlotte, you are muted, so I reckon you want to jump in, so I'll come to you first on this one, especially because David was grimacing and I'm a bit scared of his answer.
I think if you're really clever, so like referrals, like Sue mentioned, I think is one of the best ways for any business to grow. And what we did in some recent campaigns with a pet insurance brand is actually we thanked top referrers for referring, and then obviously guess what happened? They referred more people, and therefore is a great way for customer acquisition. Or if you do something really, I mean, we should be thanking all of our customers, wouldn't exist without them, but the ones that refer the most customers, we really should be keeping an eye on that because they are your advocates, they're your raving fans. And actually a lot of brands don't do much to thank them or keep them, like engaged. And really the more you do for that, in my opinion, the more customer acquisition you're going to get. And that's the best way, in my opinion, to do offline marketing for new customers. I mean, there definitely is other ways in which you can do offline for new customers, but you're kind of hitting two birds with one stone in a way, and you want to spend the least amount of money to get the biggest impact. And I think actually nailing those referrers and getting them to refer more people, or encouraging your current customers to refer, is the best way to do customer acquisition anyway. And I think offline is one of the best ways to do that, because online and email just gets lost and they don't feel thankful, and therefore it doesn't actually work from a psychological point of view. So what can you do to thank your top referrers that refer more, or how can you encourage people to refer? And then you hit your existing customers, because I bet you if you track the customer lifetime value, I say bet, I know, if you track the customer lifetime value, they'll go up anyway because you've appreciated them, but also they'll refer more, therefore you've hit customer acquisition. So I love to look at marketing tools in general, offline or online, that literally hit, well, what is this going to impact? What's the wider effect of this, not just one, so that you're investing your money and growing your across the board, really. So I think you can get clever with it. We have done examples of customer acquisition with offline marketing, and it has better results than online in the ones that we've tested. So I do think it is a good channel, but I still push all of our clients to look at their current customers and how they can get more value out of them, or more value out of them referring new customers, rather than using offline for new. I think it's a slightly harder relationship to build offline from the onset in the way that we do, but maybe there's examples that changes that, like events, for example, might be different.
I love that you've brought in referrals, because I think one of the other big trends for this year, this session we're doing now is kind of a reflection of the fact that we've got to diversify our marketing mix in 2022 to cut through all the competition and so on and so forth. But one of the other big trends is leveraging partnerships with other businesses, with other retailers, with other platforms, and with your customers, and sending, messages to thank for the referrals. That has to be one of the cheapest new customer acquisition strategies out there. So I love the fact you brought that in. Now, David, I said I was too scared to ask you the question, so I'm going to come to you now, and I'm ready to be told off if necessary. Would you class offline as more of a retention or an acquisition tool?
All channels can do all things. It is the really easy answer. And I've worked with and walked into so many business, and you started off with, paid search is there to recruit customers. Well, I tell you what, if you turn it off, you'll find that you lose a whole load of existing customer demand as well. But offline marketing can work really well to recruit, reactivate, retain, convert, grow loyalty. It can do all of those things. Maybe not exactly the same bit of offline marketing, and different bits of the offline marketing mix are very much better at recruiting customers than they are growing loyalty. But it's a big channel. It encompasses inserts, TV, radio, events, physical retail, fully personalized mail. It encompasses a huge arena, and all those different parts of the arena do different jobs. So I've done a whole load historically of what we've called surprise and delight stuff, where you're sending people gifts for just being a brilliant customer and writing them a really lovely letter to explain why we're sending it to them. I know from having done that with several companies that it massively increases future value of those customers and drives not only more loyalty from those customers, but drives those customers to recommend more people and drives the word of mouth out. What we also find is when you do that, those people post on social media. So you get this kind of ripple impact of, haven't they done something lovely for me? Maybe they'll do something lovely for you. You should get involved. They seem to be really amazing people. So it's that ripple impact of all those things you can do. And I think someone earlier talked about some things not being scalable, and generally really amazing surprise and delight isn't massively scalable, but there again, probably neither should it be. You're there to try and identify and reward your best referrers, your best customers, whatever it is you're trying to do to make them feel a bit different and to make them stand out from the rest of the crowd. That's not to say you can't do surprise and delight for everyone, but that tends to be at a much lower level and tends to be slightly less delighting. But pleasing, surprise and please is what I think I'd call that. But surprise and delight probably has to be a much smaller thing.
Now, I know exactly why Charlotte's just unmuted.
You're basically selling Inkpact for me. That's exactly what we do. We help companies surprise and delight their customers at bigger scales than they could do themselves. But yeah, I nearly was like, David, do you want to come and sell Inkpact for me? You're doing a great job over there. But yeah, I think it is harder, but it is possible. So we've tried to. So we're a tech business, even though we send things physically through the mail. And I think what we try and do is we pull in digital. So if David, we did a campaign with Deliveroo recently, and using data, we'd know where you spent, what you did at the first ever restaurant you went to, and we can surprise and delight you by pulling things we know about you and giving you a note or a gift. So we do a lot of gifting too, that really targets you particularly. So on digital, this is really easy, right? Because you use the data, you can target things particularly for them, but it's not very delightful or very surprising when you do it online. So what we try and do is we try and take that, put it into a gift or a note or a really thoughtful way, and use thousands of people to put them together. So you actually just sold exactly perfectly what we do and why we exist, because it is hard, but I think it's really important. I think the more, we still, for a lot of our brands, can't send it to every single customer. The cost just doesn't make sense to send it to every single customer, but you pick those ones that could be more active or you need to thank in a way. But even if you don't have the budget to do surprise and delight, or you are a smaller businesses, and I know some of them will be listening now, like just thinking and doing those things yourself, like just that little thank you note in the gift, or just in, just an email going, thank you so much for your purchase, I really appreciate it. Those thanking and those delightful moments, I completely agree with David, they are game changing to businesses. And I think bigger businesses are now kind of asking, how do we do it now we're big? And it is possible, but it is slightly harder to execute on. So thanks, David, for setting me up nicely.
I think that surprise and delight is one of those tricky ones where when you're a small business, you see the line item on the yearly budget and it's quite small. And then when you get big, if you do it, if you still send a free gift to your top 1% of the customers, when you're small, that's like a tenner a year. And then you get bigger and all of a sudden it's a couple of grand and you're like, oh, this is terrible, we must now cancel it, because of the actual sum of money rather than the percentage impact. It falls foul of that. But Sue, I want to come to you, because we talked about customer acquisition versus customer retention across the more direct mail channels. I often think that people go to, when people do pop-up events or they go to a gift fair, they assume it's all going to be new and they miss the opportunity of using it for retention as well. Is that what you find?
Not necessarily. I see a combination, that it's not just people who are new that are coming to see you. They're people that you've developed a relationship with through email marketing, through them being at the show before and seeing you, and now they want to replenish whatever product that you sell. Or to the extent, to continue the conversation that we've already had about surprise and delight, personal relationships. To the extent that you can work with customers, and this is much easier done in person, especially in the beginning, of making them feel seen, as a customer feels seen for who they are, not just customer number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, right? We talk about that. I'll just bring this up because I want to slip it in, especially people who are smaller, who, yes, you can't do this totally when you're scaling to a large number, but in the beginning, not just a thank you note that says thank you for the sale, but thank you so much for buying these yellow earrings. Personally, they're my favorite, because I think a lot of people have gotten into the fact that, yeah, people are writing notes, but to the extent that, Charlotte, like what you're doing, where you're really segmenting and customizing the messages, or if it's still one-on-one because you're small enough to do that, how someone really is getting that this is not a note that's just being sent to everybody. They took time and are sending a thank you note about something specifically me. I have felt seen. I think and the closer we can get to always having our customers feel seen, the more committed they'll be to our brand and and talk about us and all that. So face to face, having conversations with people, one of the biggest things that I see at craft shows, especially when people are new, they'll sit behind their table or their booth on the phone. They just figure their stuff is out on the table if people want to talk to them. No, you want to get into human conversation with them. Even if people aren't buying a product from you, you're getting a lot of feedback on what's the most popular thing. Why would people buy? Is it for themselves? Is it for somebody else? Like a gift, that type of thing. So I might be getting off topic of your question, Chloe, but I think back to the more people feel one-on-one and that they're seen, you can do the best in person. It's harder to do online. It is possible direct messaging people who have commented on something on social. I don't know about you guys, you could comment on this, but if I make a comment about something on social with someone and that brand direct messages me back personally, I'm going to even remember that 6 months later. I'm not talking to them every day. So, that type of thing is not scalable, but I'm going to remember it's left an impact on me that they took the time to reach out to me personally. And that goes far for second purchases, third purchases, talking about someone's business, recommending the product, all of that. So.
Right, I said earlier that we had a question sent in advance by one of the audience. So I'm going to come to that in a second. Before I do that, though, we have about 20 minutes left. I reckon it's going to take us 5 to 10 to answer this new question, which means anyone who's watching live, you've still got time to drop me a question or two to put to our panelists. So do add those in now if you've got them, please. Okay, so Nicole McCarthy runs a business called Hands-On Workshop in Australia, which is why she is forgiven for not tuning in live, because it's an awful time right now to be on a webinar in Australia, and she has just far better things to be doing. Nicole's business, Hands-On Workshop, is it's kind of a really beautiful haberdashery / craft store where she picks the best brands. I warn you, you will lose time on it if you go and look at it right now. So save that till later. Anyone who's quickly typing their way over there. Her question is one which we may not be able to answer precisely because none of us are in Australia, but we will do our best because we've got 2 UK perspectives and an American perspective. So I reckon we'll be able to help Nicole out. Her business is D2C, but she also has some wholesale clients, so physical stores who buy product from her to sell to their customers. And she wants more of these wholesale customers, and she's planning on doing a mailing campaign to find them. However, she doesn't know how to get the data. Currently, she's manually finding it, which I imagine is incredibly time-consuming. But she can see this is a way to scale the business, so she needs to find this data. How does one go about? So this is obviously a very B2B specific one. So I'll widen the question out a little bit to make it relevant for everyone watching. How does one go about legally finding postal data for a postcard mailing? David, I know you know the answer to this, so I'm going to come to you first, and then we'll come to Sue for the American perspective and Charlotte for anything she has to add.
So I've been in charge of a marketing department in Australia and in the US, and so I have some experience. Data is as widely available in Australia as it is in the rest of Europe, certainly. And America is a slightly different case because data is actually slightly more widely available in America than it is in Europe and Australia. If we think about B2C data first, and I'll get back to B2B, but B2C data is available generally either to rent or to effectively swap through either direct swaps or through a data cooperative. So data cooperatives, people who don't know, if you think that 200 direct to consumer companies all put their data into one pot with here's the customer and here's all the things they've ever bought from me. 200 companies do that, use an algorithm that sits over the top that says, find me lookalikes of my customers. So your customers are in there. You know that your customers normally buy from brands A, B, C, D, and E. There's people who bought from brands A, B, C, D, and E who haven't bought from you. They should be a phenomenal prospect for you. So those exist. There are at least 4 or 5 of them in the UK. They exist in Germany, France. They certainly exist in Australia. In the UK, the first one to form was Abacus. They're now called Epsilon, Experian. There are a wide variety of them. If you search for data cooperatives in your country, you will find what you're looking for. On a B2B basis, it's slightly different. There's not so much cooperative data available, but what there is available is rental data, and rental data is relatively easy to come across. In the UK, my first port of call for rental data on a B2B basis would probably be Experian, but mostly because that's the people I've had the most success with on a B2B basis before. It would be a similar situation in Australia. So the data is available. You can slice it and dice it down to really granular levels of detail for, I only want to mail this person if their job title is C-suite or above, or managing director or owner or whatever it is. And I only want to mail them if they're in Western Australia, and I only want to mail them if they're coastal, and I only want to mail them if they've been going for more than 5 years, and their complete specialism is sewing and haberdashery. So you can be really quite granular in your data and really quite granular in how you select it on a B2B basis. On a B2C basis, it's relatively similar. You can find like-minded people you'd like to rent data from, or you can use effectively machine learning or similar in data cooperatives, which will tell you here are the customers you should be able to go after, and that you should be able to they should look a little similar to your existing customer base. So yes, it's relatively easily available, and the reason it's available, and lots of people have been scared historically of GDPR and saying GDPR stopped me being able to do any of that business. That's just not true. You, as long as you're explaining what you're doing and giving people an easy way of saying that that's not what they want to happen, then it's a relatively straightforward thing to be able to do, to share data through data cooperatives.
That is a very thorough answer. Thank you, David.
As you kind of expected, sorry.
Yes, no, that was exactly what I was after. So key things from there for you, Nicole, is search data cooperative potentially, but certainly have a look and see who's the places you can rent data from and how you can cut and dice that B2B data, because there will be someone in Australia. Sue, anything you've got to add on that? And for Sue and Charlotte, I'm going to widen it out to other ways you might recommend Nicole might go to find these core targets.
Okay, well, David did a great job of outlining everything. The one caution that I have seen, and I've been out of some of the data acquisition like that for a little while, but what I have found is you've got to make sure, even when you're slicing and dicing, how recently have they scrubbed the email list or a mailing list if you're going to go that route? Because there's a lot of information, and a lot of these services are sold based on the quantity of data that you're going to get. And sometimes it's not accurate. You're going to have a lot of bounces, or you're going to have a lot of unmailable, undeliverable addresses if you're going the physical mail route. So it's an overlaying question to ask is, how recently has all this information been updated, and tested for validity? So I would say that. So that's just my initial thought on that. In answer to other ways of being able to get information, who else out there has an audience that you're trying to get to, selling to? So maybe you can collaborate with another brand that isn't in competition with you, but also is after the same audience, and you can share audiences. And so you're able to, if if you're providing wholesale product to a certain audience and they're providing a different wholesale product to that same audience, you could share audiences. So in other words, they would be getting visibility from your audience and you would be getting visibility from their audience. You know, whether it's an online information sharing platform, whether it's how your products are being used together, you know, it would just depend specifically on what you're offering. But I think that's an excellent way to go. Plus, it adds a layer of credibility because you're presenting to your audience another source and vice versa.
I like that. Yeah, I can't help but think there's probably some kind of trade body group or chamber of commerce or something that would help along the way. And Charlotte, how about you? What would you add to Nicole's cue?
Yeah, so there's kind of two perspectives. One, we do B2B marketing ourselves and how we get our own new customers. And then there's kind of, we have some tech businesses who use us for B2B marketing. So I can kind of talk through both quite specifically to her question, then it might be relevant for others. But kind of on David's point about Experian, there's actually a software that we use called Cognism, which is kind of similar to Experian in a way. And we can pull the data in kind of quite big capacities and just like you would with any customer segmentation, we want customers of this size, etc., etc. With this kind of value client, etc. And then we just pull the data, and then we can do some really personal, thoughtful things to those groups. So ourselves, we do a whole load of marketing mix. We do send emails ourselves and handwritten notes and gifts and the whole works, just like any other business too. We don't only send our own handwritten notes. So that's a really great way for us, and we use that across all countries. So we work with customers in lots of different countries around the world, and that works in there. So I'm pretty sure that Cognism is a way. It's like a subscription service. So it's
How
kind
do
of
you
like
spell it, Charlotte?
you're asking me. Cognism. Cognism. It's like a pay monthly service. It's kind of like I want to say a new age Experian, but someone from Experian might really hate me for that. But it's like a SaaS-based subscription service of how you get B2B leads.
I was on the wrong page when you wrong bit to type it in when you said the letters. So can you just say the letters again, and I'll share them to the audience now I'm on the right screen.
Cognism, I believe it is. Cognism.
Cool.
So they basically pull, because business data is available in lots of places from how kind of they basically scrape the internet for all the most up-to-date places that data is, whether that's emails or addresses or all different kinds of things, and then it basically puts it in a format, and then we do searches every week, month to pull down that data. So that's quite a practical solution for you guys, and then we can use that data in a number of different ways. So we obviously send our own handwritten notes and gifts, but we also do send emails and also LinkedIn, and they sometimes have phone numbers and things like that. So your typical marketing mix from there. One of the things we also do, so I know she's pulling data manually and it's quite time consuming, but we also still do that too. So I have a top list of brands that I'm like, we really want to work with these brands. We get a bit stalkerish with it. So let's say, I really wanted to work with someone at Gymshark. I'd find the person, I'd look who they're connected to. I'd also look at what they like to do, what values they have, and then I would send them a gift that's like going to blow their socks off, basically. I'd find they really love this particular type of cheese because they posted about it on Instagram. I'd try and send them a gift that was like that cheese in a hamper, cheeses they would like, put a personalized note with it, go, look, I really know you like this. I'd really love to have a chat with you, and just be really kind of personable about it and be like, this is my business, this is what we do, we'd like to have a chat. And actually that's the way we've got the best clients, is doing it the long way. But we do a mix of both, right? So we have our targeted hot list that does take time, and we do scrape the internet for some of those. If we're clever, we pull a CSV file and put it into Cognism. But sometimes it's just easier to look at them up on LinkedIn, look at their Instagram, look at their Twitter, have a little look, pull the data online. You can see where their head office is, and most of the time the gift gets there because we've done that up-to-date research ourselves, and it's really kind of stand out. So if she does the maths back, you go, well, how many warehouses, how many wholesalers do I want, what kind of size? It's literally just a bit of a numbers game. She might not need to go to massive databases. If she only needs a handful of big ones and a great relationship, there's no point necessarily going out to loads and loads and loads. Test doing really personal reach outs to a handful of the ones you really want, and then she can always scale that up if she's like, oh, actually this really works. So I'd say maybe do a mixture of both. We find that really works, and our clients do the same too. So we work with Facebook in a B2B capacity, and we do new custom acquisition and gifting for them, and they do the same. Like, we want to thank, you know, new customers as soon as they sign up. Again, the sharing point of view. B2B and B2C, I think everyone thinks are really, really different sometimes, and actually it's a person buying regardless of whether it's B2B or B2C. So all the marketing techniques just tweaked slightly, pretty much, you know, work in a similar way. So I think, again, they do it in a way that's outreach, going, we really want to work with you, but they do something really thoughtful and through the mail. But you can even do thoughtful online or events or whatever that might be. So I think, yeah, it's not too different, B2C and B2B, and I think that's a bit of a misconception in the marketing world, to a point, which is they separate it. It's just human to human, still a person buying and still a person signing the check, right? So to speak. Not so much anymore, but you know what I mean, there's still a person making that decision. So that would be my point to add.
I love that. A couple of brilliant pieces of advice there. Well, guys, we are very nearly out of time. How did that happen? I've got a comment come in though. Let's just see. Is that a cheese is definitely a winner we've got from David Cohn. So
yeah, cheese,
totally
wine,
agree.
We cheese, wine, alcohol, what the other one, like self-care stuff, just as a couple you could play with. We recently sent one of our clients, like, their cat ran across the Zoom screen when we were on Zoom. So I was like, oh, that's really cute. What's the name of your cat? And he said the cat's name. And then I sent them a book with their cat's, like, Where's Wally, but for their cat, with the exact, because I remember the color of the cat and the name of the cat. So, like, it's really just being thoughtful. Like, whatever you do for your romantic partner to, like, wow them, do the same kind of thing for your customers, and it really does work. So I think so that's a really good thing to do as well. People love their pets, their cat, their family, their pets. Think about what they love, and then try and in some way, like, make them feel significant about those things. So that would be mine.
I love it. We've gone from, like, the massive right down to the really niche named cat Where's Wally book. So we are very nearly out of time. So I'm going to let each of you have, like, a final thought before I do the wrap up. So I guess final thoughts, your top tip for a type of online marketing to test in 2022. Let's go with that one. David, you first.
Well, given that my podcast with you was about catalog or paper-based marketing, I think there's space for it, and it can be so individual and so unique. It doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all catalog. It can be personalized. It can be relevant. It can really be anything you want it to be. It can be die cut. It can be glow in the dark. There's a million things it can be, and it doesn't have to be straightforward and boring. So there's plenty of room for people receiving stuff through the mail and from catalogs through to the really fancy end of stuff.
Love it. Sue.
I'm going to talk specifically about product-based businesses and the reemergence of the value of face-to-face interactions. So whether it's craft shows, retail shops, collaborations, so that you can get access to retail if you don't normally have it. That is something that is new and refreshing, especially right now, because we are thirsting for human interaction again. Now that the permission light has turned back on and we can get out and rub shoulders together, people want to do and appreciate that more than ever. So the extent that you can do that and then provide an experience, remembering that it's not back to what used to be, but it's a new normal that brings experience to the customer, that provides great value.
Excellent. And finally, Charlotte.
Yeah, I'd say kind of back to what we were talking about a little bit around just thanking and being grateful for your top customers, your top referrers. Like, I think if you had, like, one kind of golden bullet, I'd go there, because that can create you a lot of love and a lot of awareness and a lot of retention, all in kind of one go. So I'd say thank top customers, thank top referrers, and don't forget about those active customers that could be top customers or VIPs. Don't just treat the VIPs like VIPs, treat the ones just underneath like VIPs, and they'll start spending like one. So, like, you know, really thanking and appreciating your customers and referrers. I think that's a really good place to start. Even if you just start small first, a small little thank you. Your brands don't even necessarily get that bit right. And then if you can do the other stuff, then great. But a thank you goes a long way.
Thank you goes a long way. Well, thank you very much to our panelists. Charlotte is from Inkpact. You can find out all about them at inkpact.com. David is from the Tapestry Agency, and you can get practical ideas to help support your marketing at thetapestryagency.com/category/insights. And Sue is from Gift Biz Unwrapped podcast, and you can check out Sue's podcast and everything else Gift Biz over at Gift Biz Unwrapped. And all those links will be sent out to you by email along with the replay later on. So why not watch this with your team and work out how you're going to integrate far more than just offline marketing that we've talked about today into your business, and carry on listening to the podcast, because in March we're going all crazy on Google Ads. I have recorded all but one of these already, so I know they are packed full of great advice to help you take your Google Ads up a level this year. We are starting off with building the ultimate conversion funnel on Google Ads, so marrying all those bits and bobs that it does up together. We're going to talk about automation, because automation now works. We're going to explore that with Zeze. I've got best-selling author Andy Splichal on, talking about making each click count, which is also the name of his soon-to-be-out book. Then we've got 2 episodes where we're going to focus in on the core elements of Google Ads. We've got one episode that's all about keywords and one episode that's all about Google Shopping. And there is so much change been going on in Google Ads recently. You really want to catch those episodes. So they're happening in March, and we'll wrap it all up with another one of these. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for your questions, and thank you to my marvelous panelists. Night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Night.
Bye.